The sound hit me first. Not the polite applause, not the soft clink of glasses, but a sharp, brittle laugh from the stage. It cut through the forced gaiety of the bridal shower like shattered glass. And then the words followed, dripping with a sweetness so artificial it curdled in the air. "Of course," my sister says, holding up a delicate piece of lace, part of her elaborate bridal ensemble laid out for display. "Some of us just don't have this future to plan for. It's important to cherish these moments, isn't it? For those of us lucky enough to be walking down the aisle." She glances pointedly at me, a smile painted on her face that doesn't reach her eyes. "You'll never be a bride, will you?" The room goes quiet. Not silent, not completely. The music still plays softly, the ice still melts in the champagne flutes, but the human noise, the polite murmurs, they cease. All eyes are on me. My heart, which had been beating a nervous, hopeful rhythm just moments before, seizes in my chest. The air feels thin, suddenly hard to breathe. The taste in my mouth is no longer champagne, but bitter ash. That was the sound of my world tilting. A sound I still hear sometimes late at night. Let me know where you're watching from and what time it is. And if you feel this ache, subscribe. It helps me share these moments with you. It wasn't the first time she'd aimed for the heart, not by a long shot. Eleanor had always been like that. Since we were kids, it was a competition I didn't know I was in, a race I didn't sign up for. If I got a good grade, she got a better one. If I had a crush, she dated him. If I found something I loved, she found a way to subtly mock it, to diminish it, to make it feel small and silly. It was relentless, a slow drip of poison into the well of our relationship, until the water itself turned bitter. I remember her 10th birthday. I'd saved up allowance for months to buy her a locket she'd admired. I was so proud, wrapping it carefully. She opened it, her eyes wide for a second, and then she looked at my parents. "Oh, it's nice," she'd said, her voice just loud enough for me to hear. "But it's not real silver, is it?" The air went cold. I felt a familiar burning in my cheeks. My parents quickly changed the subject, praising her other gifts. I learned then that my efforts would always fall short, that her validation was a moving target I'd never hit. This dynamic solidified as we grew up. She was the older sister, the responsible one, the pretty one, the one who always seemed to land on her feet, even when she stumbled. I was the younger, the sensitive one, the one who tried too hard, the one who never quite measured up. Our parents, bless them, tried to be fair, but Eleanor had a knack for presenting herself as the reasonable one, the victim of my oversensitivity or jealousy. She was a master manipulator, weaving narratives where I was always the slightly unhinged younger sister, consumed by envy. Her engagement, a few months prior, had amplified everything to an unbearable level. Her fiancé, Mark, was successful, an investment banker, not a billionaire, but certainly wealthy enough to afford the lavish wedding Eleanor had always dreamed of. The planning consumed her, and it gave her a new platform for her favorite sport, highlighting the perceived deficiencies in my own life. Every conversation circled back to the wedding. The dress, the venue, the guest list, the budget. It was a constant, glittering reminder of what I supposedly lacked. "Have you found a plus one yet?" she'd ask, her head tilted sympathetically, but her eyes sharp and expectant. "You know, it's a black tie event. You'll want someone appropriate." I tried to engage, I really did. I went dress shopping with her. I helped address invitations. I listened to her endless monologues about floral arrangements. I swallowed the rising tide of inadequacy, telling myself I was being the bigger person, the supportive sister. But with each mention of her future, her secure path, her perfect life, the knot in my stomach tightened. "You should really start thinking about settling down," my mother said one day, trying to be helpful but only echoing Eleanor's unspoken judgment. "You're not getting any younger." I was 32. Eleanor was 34. Her timeline had somehow become the universal benchmark, and I was failing. The pressure mounted. Online dating became a series of soul-crushing encounters. My job, which I usually found fulfilling, suddenly felt like just a way to pay bills, lacking the grand trajectory of Mark's finance career or Eleanor's effortless social ascent. I started to believe their narrative. Maybe I wasn't cut out for it. Maybe I was destined to be the perennial bridesmaid, the single aunt, the one who watched from the sidelines. I remember sitting alone one Friday night, scrolling through carefully curated photos of Eleanor's bachelorette party in Miami. Yacht, designer swimsuits, endless champagne. I was eating leftover takeout, watching a documentary about penguins. The contrast was stark, brutal. A wave of despair washed over me, heavy and suffocating. Was this it? Was this my life? Comfortable, quiet, utterly unremarkable in comparison to her dazzling, triumphant march towards matrimonial bliss. That night, something inside me shifted. Not a dramatic movie moment, just a quiet, cold realization. I was letting her define me. I was allowing her narrative to become my reality. Her cruelty wasn't just annoying, it was actively damaging my ability to see my own worth, my own potential for happiness. I wasn't jealous of her wedding. I was grieving the sister I'd never had and mourning the future I feared I'd never build, precisely because her voice was the loudest one in my head. The decision was quiet, almost imperceptible at first. It wasn't about getting a boyfriend for the wedding. It wasn't about proving Eleanor wrong. It was about silencing that toxic voice in my own head. It was about building a life that was mine on my own terms, whether it involved a partner or not, whether it fit into Eleanor's narrow definition of success or not. I started small. I signed up for a pottery class, something I'd always wanted to try. I reconnected with old friends who weren't in Eleanor's orbit. I focused on my work, not as a placeholder, but as something valuable in itself. I deleted the dating apps. If it was going to happen, I decided it would happen organically, not through forced, anxious swiping. It was during this time, this quiet reclamation of myself, that I met him. Not in a bar, not online. Through a mutual friend who was organizing a charity gala. He was unexpected. Not loud, not flashy, despite the circles he clearly moved in. He was intelligent, kind, genuinely interested in the world and the people around him. He listened when I spoke. He laughed at my dry humor. He saw me, not the caricature Eleanor had painted. We started dating slowly, discreetly. He wasn't public about his personal life, and I appreciated that. It allowed our relationship to grow without the scrutiny and judgment I was so used to. He knew about Eleanor, about the family dynamic. He didn't judge, just listened. He saw the scars, the constant low-level anxiety I lived with around her, and he was patient. He was everything I hadn't realized I needed. His name is Liam. Or rather, in this story, he is Liam. A name I only whisper to myself in my head because using it feels too real, too vulnerable. He moves through the world with a quiet confidence that comes from knowing who he is, from having built something significant not just in business, but in himself. He'd built a tech empire, yes, the kind that puts you on lists and makes headlines, but beneath that, he was just good. Genuinely good. As our relationship deepened, the contrast with the looming wedding, the escalating hostility from Eleanor, became almost unbearable. I wanted to tell everyone about him, shout it from the rooftops. But it felt sacred, ours. And a part of me, the part that still flinched at the thought of Eleanor's scrutiny, wanted to protect it. Protect him from the inevitable drama. Protect myself from having this beautiful, fragile thing tainted by her negativity. So, we kept it quiet. Really quiet. Our dates were private dinners, weekends away, quiet evenings at his apartment or mine. We built our world away from the noise, away from the expectations. He met my closest friends, the ones who knew the real me, and they adored him. He fit into my life seamlessly, bringing a sense of peace and stability I hadn't realized was missing. Meanwhile, the wedding machine chugged along. Eleanor was in full bridezilla mode, her stress manifesting as heightened criticism and demands on everyone around her, particularly me. The bridal shower date loomed. It was being held at the city's most exclusive private club, a venue that screamed, "Look at me." The invitations were ornate, heavy cardstock, sealed with wax. Everything about it was designed to impress, to signify status, to underline Eleanor's triumph. My anxiety about the shower grew with each passing day. It felt like walking into the lion's den. I knew, with absolute certainty, that Eleanor would find a way to make a spectacle of me, to use the occasion to highlight my single status, my perceived lack of prospects, contrasting it with her own glittering future. I debated skipping it, feigning illness. But Liam encouraged me to go. "Face it," he'd said gently, holding my hand. "You don't need to hide. You don't need to pretend. Go. Be yourself. I'll be there." He'd been invited, of course, as my +1, a designation that had made Eleanor sniff when she heard I wasn't bringing someone she recognized. He usually avoided large social events, especially family ones, preferring his privacy. But he said he wanted to be there for me, to witness it. He didn't elaborate, just held my gaze with that steady, calming presence he had. So, I went. I put on the dress I'd bought, a simple but elegant design that made me feel confident. I walked into the opulent room, the chatter and laughter hitting me like a physical wave. I saw Eleanor across the room, radiant in white, surrounded by fawning bridesmaids and beaming relatives. She saw me and her smile tightened just slightly before widening into a performative beam. The shower progressed. The usual games, the opening of gifts, mountains of expensive homeware, luxury lingerie, honeymoon essentials. Eleanor oohed and awed, holding up each item with exaggerated delight, pausing to make little speeches about her future life, her gratitude, her happiness. Each word, each gesture, felt like a subtle jab, a performance designed to emphasize how perfect her life was and, by extension, how imperfect mine was. I kept my smile fixed, made polite conversation, navigated the questions about my own life with vague, non-committal answers. I felt Liam's presence nearby, a quiet anchor in the swirling room of performative femininity and veiled judgment. He was talking to a few people, observing the scene, his expression unreadable. And then came the moment. The display of her bridal attire. The lace, the veil, the shoes. The centerpiece of the shower. Eleanor, holding that delicate lace, stepped forward onto a small raised platform, a makeshift stage set up for games and speeches. She had the room's attention. This was her moment, and she decided to use it to deliver the cruelest blow yet. Her voice carried clearly, amplified by the microphone she held. "Of course," she says, holding up a delicate piece of lace, part of her elaborate bridal ensemble laid out for display. "Some of us just don't have this future to plan for. It's important to cherish these moments, isn't it? For those of us lucky enough to be walking down the aisle," she glances pointedly at me, a smile painted on her face that doesn't reach her eyes. "You'll never be a bride, will you?" The words hang in the air, heavy and suffocating. A collective intake of breath from the guests. My heart stops. The room spins slightly. All the years of subtle digs, of feeling less than, of being measured and found wanting, they culminate in this single, brutal sentence. She hadn't just said it. She'd announced it to a room full of people, sealing my fate with her cruel pronouncement. I see my mother wince, my father look away uncomfortably. Eleanor's bridesmaids force awkward smiles. Eleanor herself just beams, basking in the attention, oblivious to the emotional carnage she's just wrought. Or maybe not oblivious. Maybe this was exactly the effect she wanted. To break me here in front of everyone. To prove her superiority once and for all. A strange calm settles over me. The initial shock gives way to something cold and clear. I feel the familiar sting of tears welling up, but they don't fall. Not here. Not now. Not ever again because of her. In that moment, standing there in the silent, expectant room, I make a decision. The quiet resolve from months ago hardens into something sharp and undeniable. She wanted a spectacle? Fine. She would get one. But it wouldn't be the one she intended. I meet her gaze. My expression, I know, is carefully neutral. No tears, no crumbling, no giving her the satisfaction. Just stillness. Her smile flickers for a second, perhaps expecting a reaction, a tearful retreat. She doesn't get it. I turn my head just slightly. My eyes find Liam across the room. He's been watching, his face unreadable. But as my gaze meets his, something changes. A flicker of understanding passes between us. He sees the look in my eyes, not defeat, but a quiet, burning resolve. He sees the line she just crossed. He gives me the slightest nod. It's almost imperceptible, but I see it. It's a confirmation, a permission, a signal that he understands exactly what needs to happen now. My heart starts beating again, not with fear, but with a sudden, wild surge of adrenaline. Eleanor, sensing the moment of awkwardness stretching, clears her throat, ready to move on, perhaps expecting me to slink away. But before she can speak, a movement from the back of the room draws everyone's attention. It's Liam. He's walking towards the stage. A murmur starts in the crowd. Who is this? My unknown plus one? What is he doing? Eleanor looks bewildered, her painted smile faltering completely. Mark, her fiancé, who's been standing near the stage looking vaguely bored, stiffens, his eyebrows furrowing. Liam reaches the stage. He doesn't look at Eleanor. He looks at me. He walks past her as if she's not even there, stepping onto the platform, towards the microphone she's still holding. He gently takes the microphone from her hand. Eleanor stares at him, utterly blindsided, her mouth slightly agape. The room is silent again, this time with a different kind of tension. Confusion. Anticipation. What is happening? Liam stands there for a moment, holding the microphone, his gaze fixed on me. His expression is calm, steady. And then he speaks. His voice, amplified through the speakers, is clear and resonant. Eleanor, he says, his tone polite but firm, acknowledging her presence only to dismiss it. While I appreciate you offering your unique perspective on potential futures, I think there's been a misunderstanding. He turns fully towards me now, ignoring the stunned faces in the crowd, ignoring Eleanor's frozen shock. He steps closer, reaching for my hand. My fingers tremble as he takes them, his grip firm and reassuring. Clara, he says, his voice softening, becoming warm, intimate, as if we are the only two people in the room. You know how much I love you. You know I wanted to do this privately, just us. He pauses, glancing back at Eleanor for just a fraction of a second, a look of cool assessment in his eyes. But, he continues, turning back to me, his gaze full of warmth. Given the current company, it seems like the perfect moment to correct the record. He kneels, right there on the stage, in front of everyone. A collective gasp echoes through the room. Eleanor's eyes widen to impossible saucers. Mark looks like he might have a stroke. My parents stare, utterly speechless. Liam reaches into his inner jacket pocket. He pulls out a small, velvet box. It's dark blue, simple, elegant. He opens it. Inside, resting on a bed of white satin, is a ring. It's not just a ring. It's enormous. The diamond catches the light, refracting it into 1,000 blinding points. It pulses with fire, demanding attention. It's the kind of ring you only see in movies, in magazines, on the hands of people who live entirely different lives. He looks up at me, his eyes sparkling with emotion, completely ignoring the chaos erupting around us. Clara, he says again, his voice strong and clear, cutting through the stunned silence. I don't want to spend another day without knowing you'll be my wife. Eleanor is wrong. You will be a bride. My bride. He smiles, a genuine, loving smile that makes my heart soar. Clara, he asks, the question echoing in the suddenly hushed room, will you marry me? I can't breathe. I can't speak. Tears, real tears this time, not of pain but of overwhelming shock and joy, finally spill down my cheeks. I look at him, kneeling there, offering me not just a ring, but a future, a validation I hadn't even dared to dream of on my own terms. I look past him, at Eleanor, still frozen on the stage, her face a mask of pure, unadulterated horror and disbelief. My voice comes out as a choked whisper, but the microphone picks it up. Yes, I say, my voice thick with emotion. Yes, I will. A roar erupts in the room. Not polite applause this time, but genuine cheers, gasps of amazement, excited chatter. People surge forward. Liam rises, beaming, and slides the ring onto my finger. It fits perfectly. It feels heavy, substantial, a tangible symbol of this impossible, wonderful reality. He pulls me into his arms, holding me tight as the room dissolves into joyful chaos. I bury my face in his shoulder, muffling a sob of relief and triumph. Over his shoulder, I see Eleanor. She hasn't moved. She's staring at the ring on my finger, her face pale, her mouth working soundlessly. Mark is trying to fuss over her, but she's oblivious, her entire world clearly imploding in that moment. She said I would never be a bride, and in the space of 60 seconds, I became not just a bride, but the fiancé of a man who, with a single gesture, rendered her entire carefully constructed narrative, her entire wedding, her entire perceived superiority, completely irrelevant. The plot twist wasn't just having a fiancé, it was having this fiancé, at this moment, delivering the most public, undeniable refutation of her cruelty imaginable. She was blindsided because she was so utterly convinced of my failure, so focused on her own moment in the spotlight that she couldn't conceive of me having a secret life, let alone one on this scale. She didn't just lose the moment, she lost the entire game she'd been playing her whole life. My win wasn't just getting engaged, it was watching her face crumble as she realized the depth of her miscalculation, the sheer scale of the life she had mocked. It was winning bigger than she could ever have imagined winning herself. The rest of the shower is a blur. The focus shifts entirely. Everyone wants to see the ring, to congratulate us, to ask about Liam. He handles it with grace and charm, introducing me proudly as his fiancée. Eleanor retreats, disappearing from the stage, from the room, a ghost to her own party. The air, moments ago thick with her calculated cruelty, is now buzzing with excitement and speculation. Later, after we manage to extract ourselves from the crowd, Liam and I find a quiet corner. The adrenaline is still coursing through me, but a sense of calm is starting to settle. I look at the ring on my finger, shimmering even in the dim light. It feels surreal. "You okay?" he asks, his thumb gently stroking my hand. I nod, leaning my head on his shoulder. "Yeah," I whisper. "More than okay." A complex mix of emotions washes over me. There's the joy of the proposal, the genuine happiness of knowing I get to spend my life with this incredible man. There's the dizzying shock of the public spectacle, the sudden plunge into a world of wealth and attention I'd only glimpsed from afar. And there's the cold, hard satisfaction of watching Eleanor's carefully constructed world shatter. It's not a feeling I expected to savor, but there it is. After years of being chipped away at, of feeling small and insignificant, this moment of undeniable validation, of public triumph over her cruelty, is potent. But beneath the triumph, there's also a pang of sadness. The sister I wished I had, the relationship I'd always longed for, that was gone. Maybe it had never truly existed. The ring on my finger felt like more than just a promise of love. It felt like a door closing on one life, the one defined by Eleanor's shadow, and opening to another, one where I could finally define myself. The silence of the car ride home is comfortable. Liam doesn't ask about Eleanor. He doesn't need to. He understands. He saw it all. He saw her cruelty, he saw my pain, and he chose to rewrite the narrative in the most spectacular way possible. My phone starts buzzing before we even leave the parking lot. Calls, texts, notifications flooding in. News travels fast. The quiet life I knew is over. Walking into his apartment, a place that feels both incredibly luxurious and surprisingly like home, the weight of the day settles on me. The drama, the spectacle, the quiet moment of joy, the bitter taste of vindication. It was a lot. The future stretches before me now, vast and unknown. Planning a wedding, yes, but a very different kind of wedding than Eleanor's. Navigating a world I wasn't born into. And facing the fallout with my family, particularly Eleanor. I know this isn't the end of the story with her. Her silence at the shower wasn't acceptance, it was shock. The anger will come later. But for the first time in my life, I don't feel afraid. I feel ready. I faced the lion in its den and walked out not just unscathed, but wearing a crown she could only dream of. And I did it with a partner who saw my worth, who wasn't afraid to stand by me, to defend me, to love me publicly and unapologetically. That ring felt like more than just a promise. It felt like armor, like a declaration, a final, undeniable answer to a question I should never have had to hear. You'll never be a bride? Guess again, Eleanor. Guess again. If this story hit close to home, if you've ever felt measured and found wanting, only to find your own unexpected path, I'd love to hear your version. Drop a comment with where you're listening from and what time it is. And if you want to hear more stories like mine, subscribe. It helps me keep sharing them. Thanks for being here.